President Robert Mugabe has gone, but evidence shows that instead, government is escalating its violence. This has been penned by Ms. Tandakile Moyo in her latest opinion piece in the Daily Maverick. Ms. Moyo is, of course, a well-known writer and a human rights defender from Zimbabwe, and for the past 4 years, she has been using print, digital, and social media to expose human rights abuses, bad governance rather, as well as corruption. To talk more on this and what is going down in Zimbabwe, I'm joined online by Ms. Moyo. Welcome to the program. A very good morning to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you too.
Ms. Moyo, on 20th July 2020, when a group of armed law enforcement officials broke into the home of the award-winning Zimbabwean journalist as well as filmmaker Hopewell Chin'ono, and that incident, the latest incident of abduction and torture, can certainly be seen as one more example of the war that the government has waged against the citizens of its country, can it not?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
I'm saying when on 20th July, when a group of armed law enforcement officials broke into the home of Hopewell Chin'ono and they arrested him, they abducted him, it can certainly be seen as the government waging a war against its own citizens.
Oh, yes, definitely. That is exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe right now. Anybody that disagrees with the government in any way or exposes any of their crimes is automatically rendered an enemy of the state.
Hmm. And why would you say that Hopewell Chin'ono was abducted and persecuted while he was imprisoned by the authorities?
Because before Hopewell was arrested, he had part of a team of journalists that exposed a $60 million scandal in the Ministry of Health, where the Ministry of Health had uh, had contracted a company and paid them part of a $60 million invoice for goods that were worth way less than that amount. So Hopewell is one of the journalists that exposed that deal and got it to be cancelled eventually when the government discovered that the citizens now knew such a crime was going on. I believe that is the main reason why they abducted him and arrested him.
Ms. Moyo, you have mentioned in your article that during Chinono's incarceration, the president's spokesperson, George Charamba, he had tweeted that, and he used the analogy of, Al Jazeera's Hussein, the journalist being detained in the Egyptian prison for 1,000 days. And that tweet came during the incarceration of Chinono. So can that be seen as a threat to media freedom as well as general dissident by Zimbabwean citizens against the government?
Yes, we did take that as a threat, and the fact that after that tweet was posted by George Charamba, Hopewell was then denied bail and kept in prison for more than 40 days. It was a threat, and it was a threat that they went on to effect.
Hmm. And we do believe and we do understand that Chinono is now certainly out on bail, but what bail conditions were actually put in place for him?
Well, Chinono may be out on bail, but he's definitely not free because he's not allowed to leave Harare and he's not allowed to use his Twitter account. So he's on bail, but they've gagged him. And that is certainly no type of freedom because he's a journalist. He should be able to access the medias through which he publishes his content.
Hmm. And what is the extent of Trice Politica and separation of powers, particularly between the executive, the government of Zimbabwe, as well as the Zimbabwean judiciary? What extent of separation of powers and Trice Politica do we see in Zimbabwe at the moment?
Well, what is happening in Zimbabwe at the moment is that all state institutions are controlled by the government, and the government is a ZANU-PF government. ZANU-PF is the ruling party. So what this means is that instead of institutions like the judiciary being there to serve justice and to protect the people, what is happening is that the judiciary of Zimbabwe is serving ZANU-PF interests. So if you find yourself in the courts of Zimbabwe and you're against the government, the courts will definitely work against you. So there is no judiciary independence. And it's sad because it's not just the judiciary, it means the police as well are they're able to just be set on you by the government and ZANU-PF, and they'll come and arrest you for crimes that you did not commit. So this shows there is state capture in Zimbabwe. They've captured the police, they've captured the army that is sometimes involved in these abductions and arrests. They've captured the judiciary, which is your last stop where you expect, fine, I've been wrongfully arrested. At least if I'm in a court of law, I'm going to get justice, but the courts are also captured.
So if the courts have been captured and as you said, the army as well as the police have been captured, are we still seeing voices being raised against ZANU-PF and against government?
Yes, definitely. Despite all these attacks by the government on dissidents, we keep on speaking out because we know that that is the only way we can free this country from state capture. So as we speak, so many journalists are in prison. We've got a young man in prison by the name of Takudzwa Ngadziwore, who is the students' leaders president, who is in prison today because he had led a demonstration against the state for another abduction. So that they attack and arrest us does not stop us from speaking out.
Mr. Thandekile Moyo, I do thank you for your time this morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation.
Only a pleasure. That was, of course, Ms. Thandekile Moyo, who is a writer and a human rights defender from Zimbabwe. And as you know, for the past 4 years or so, she has been using print, digital, and social media to expose human rights abuses, bad governments, as well as corruption all the way in Zimbabwe. And this morning, we spoke about the extent of Zimbabwean state capture. And this comes in light of the arrest and later release of the well-known Zimbabwean journalist and filmmaker Hopewell Chin'ono, and the state of the capture by the Zimbabwean ruling party ZANU-PF against of the judiciary of other institutions of the state. So that was certainly an interesting conversation, and that was Thandekile Moyo.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and